and they actually always unanimously said that she was the better man of the two of them. Between the two, she was the man of the house, and she had done things and led her men. They would follow her. They would do what she would say in battle, and go off and she had to go and rescue him a few times and send him home because he would damn near got killed, and she'd go ahead and finish whatever he was doing and win. so the Flahertys absolutely adored her because she was very practical, incredibly practical, and totally courageous, but not foolish. She would never do anything foolish, and she would always figure out a better way. So she just didn't go directly to an onslaught. And I think I remember pointing out Hens Castle to you, Margaret, when we were over there, did I? Telling the little story. Loch Corrib, driving around the lake. There's this little island and a castle sticking right up in the middle of the little island. Now, the island is not too far from the shore, but it's still maybe quarter of a mile or an eighth of a mile. Be a good swim on a cold day. But Donald Flaherty was known as Cock because he was cocky, rooster, and he was known as the Cock because that's the kind of guy he was, and that was his favorite place because it was very easily defended, and it was on an island, and he could go in there and kind of relax. So it had been known as Cock's Castle because it was Donald's castle. Well, anyway. He had to. He lost it. I mean, he lost it badly. He actually had to swim ashore, I think, and I've forgotten who it was, the McMahons or some other tribe, but again with some help from some of the Normans, had taken it. And of course, they were crowing on the castle. Boy, they were just so happy to have Flaherty's castle. But she decided that she would take it back, and she did. And not only that, but she defended it several times. So to this day, it's known as Hens Castle. The Flahertys renamed it Hens Castle. And I just think that, again, is very indicative of... now here, as I said, and here was the people that she went down, virtually as a slave, She wouldn't have been much more than like 14 or 15, I guess. I don't know. Maybe not a whole lot more. What, was she 16? Oh yeah, it'll say here, won't it? She was born in 1413. You're right. 1546, given in a politically motivated marriage to Donald of the Battles of Flaherty, Tánaiste of the clan of Flaherty in his castle at Bunone in Connemara. See? Right as I said. I'm not exactly famous for reading stuff and notes, as those of you who come to my class know. I pretty well wing it. But this is good though. So, she gave birth to two sons, Owen and Murrah, and her daughter Margaret. Donald, killed in an inter-clan dispute. Grace avenges his death and assumes leadership of his clan on behalf of her sons. Returns to Ewell and settled in Clare Island in 64, from where she commenced her successful year. So she was 34 when she got back to Ewell. And of course, she was very careful to make sure that her two sons, the O'Flahertys, Owen and Murrah, were going to be the chiefs of the clan. So she hung around long enough to make sure that they were recognized and that they were going to be the heirs to the throne, so to speak. And the Flahertys were very powerful people because they owned vast amounts of hill country which produced massive amounts of sheep. So one of the great, I have no doubt that would be part of the relationship between the O'Malleys and the Flahertys. O'Flaherty would probably sell vast amounts of wool to, or maybe not sell it to them, but certainly ship it on board shipped down to Spain. So they would have a lot going on that kept them from fighting one another. 1564, returns to Youghal and settles in Clare Island, from where she commences her successful career of maintenance by land and sea. Maintenance doesn't mean quite what we mean right now, but in that Old English, that's making a living by. With her father's ships and a private army of 200 men, her fame as a leader as an expert mariner grows. Now she enters the national stage the following year by rescuing a man called Hugh de Lacy from the sea, and becomes her lover. She was very red-blooded woman. She never let an opportunity go by that with a good-looking man or a powerful man. So lots of great stories about her love life, and I'm not sure that it was restricted that very much during her marriages either, especially the later one. Maybe with Donald Cogg, because she's probably afraid of him, because he'd probably kill her on the spot. He was a wild man. But the other guy that she married, I'll tell you about in a minute, Richard O'Neill. That was an arranged marriage. She kicked him out. Actually, she got married to him, and she threw him out the same day. So I don't think she ever actually slept with him. She just took his castle. She went in, took his castle, and threw him out. And she kept it to this day, a Rockfleet Castle. That's one of the absolutely hilarious stories how she did that. And he was nuts over her, and he just put up with all kinds of abuse from her. And he was a tough guy, but he used to come outside and he would plead with her, and she would pay no attention to him and stuff, and she was off doing whatever she pleased. But Hugh de Lacy, apparently she really liked, and I've no doubt he was impressed with her, because the story of her, how she rescued him, is awesome. Everything that the wildest imagination would make it up. A burning ship and Barbary pirates, and I mean, you just couldn't make a better story than the story of her rescue of Hugh de Lacy. And he was a real blue blood. He was like top of the line, old Norman stock, and connected with all the big families of Ireland at the time. So that certainly was a good political ally to have in your pocket. The McMahons, who were inland along the Shannon, killed him, and she, and for whatever reason, that was not unusual at the time. If you were a chief, you had a pretty good chance of getting killed. And all of her husbands got killed, and indeed could mean many of her sons. And they wouldn't have spared her because she was a woman. It's just that she was very good at staying alive. She was extraordinarily clever like that. But anyway, one of the great stories of the time was the terrible retribution that she inflicted on the McMahons who killed Hugh. So she obviously was in love with Hugh. I think that might have been the love of her life. She really, that if she ever had a little soft spell, that was probably it. And judging by the reaction that she had for the guys, that she wouldn't have gone after anybody who would have killed Donald. She probably have rewarded him, and probably the same with Richard O'Neill, but Hugh de Lacy. Anyway, when she did remarry in 1566, Donald was killed in 1560. So 6 years after Donald getting killed, Donald Flaherty, and coming back up to Clare Island, she married Richard O'Neill. Now, why did she marry this guy? Because again, Richard O'Neill means Richard in iron, in the iron. He was a knight. He was always dressed up in mail. So he was a Norman knight, or else he was a coward. I'm not sure which, but he was always dressed in his. Although he I know a fair amount about him. He was he was a good man. I mean, he was a typical man of his day. He certainly was no coward. And if he had a weakness at all, it was probably for Gráinne. And she certainly didn't reciprocate. But she finally gave in and married him. He had been chasing her all around Clew Bay for years. And the reason apparently that she did so was because her castle on Clear Island was vulnerable. And even though you could defend it and so on, it still could have been attacked from the sea. And also Bingham was really starting to inflict horrific damage in Connacht. So